So
That's okay. Next is roll call, which I can do.
okay.
Mr. Ryder,
Here.
Mr. Unghire,
Here.
and Chairman Salazar.
Here.
Okay, we have some guests on the line as well, or some other board members. Walter, I see, and Tina.
Yes. And Ms.
Uh,
LeBlanc.
Yeah, I'm the alternate, so I called
The
in.
alternate, okay.
Yeah.
Am I missing anyone else that I don't see? I think it's just Walter and Tina for the
Yeah,
minute.
Jonathan couldn't make it.
Okay, no problem. Very good.
Right.
Bye, Mr. Grzelcyk. Okay, Bill, the next thing on the agenda is continue reviewing the last section of the 5,000 series. So probably won't have to hear me talk for a little bit. Back to you guys.
Okay, thank you, Andy, and hello, everyone, and welcome back to our meeting. What I have expressed, and I know I copied Scott and Andy on a communication I had with a constituent, was that my issue with the 5,000 series, as was brought to the board, was that there were several policies that were optional. At least that's how I interpreted from CAVE. And I wanted to have the opportunity, as I had previously stated in other meetings, to refrain from moving on those policies and approving them, and just approving and moving on what it is required for us to review. So with that in mind, I know that there's a list that was provided to us, and just like you, Andy, I have stuff all over my table here. So I can go through the list of those that are considered optional by CAVE. If we agree with the premise that I'm putting forth, that they should not be included since they're optional, I guess we could put that to a vote. Otherwise, I guess we can engage in conversation as to whether you think that that is a reasonable approach or not. And I'm trying to find that list. Hold on a second. Yeah. So I have a list of the policies that I interpreted as being optional. I can provide you with the list. I mean, I can read that list. I have the numbers and the names. It's part of the handout that we received that is titled, I don't know what the title is. It was this package.
It's called the 5,000 series cover.
Okay, the 5,000 series cover includes this list.
Yep, 13 pages long.
It is good practice policies in series 5,000. And my understanding is that these were optional policies that we were being asked to consider if we so desired. And again, as I stated in previous meetings, I was of the opinion that since they were optional, we should not take them into account and just focus on the ones that are required for us to review. Having said that, and bear with me here, and I guess I'll ask of you, Andy, if you can provide me some direction. I stated the premise for wanting to review these again, but so I don't know if I can put forth a motion or if that would have to come from the table regarding what I just stated, which is I would like to remove these from consideration and just concentrate on the ones that are required.
Okay.
Remove what from the table? You've given us no specifics.
The list of the good practice policies in series 5,000. That is the title of the section.
Yep, let's read it. Let's read them out loud, read them into the record.
Do you all have this document, first of all?
I do.
Okay. John, do you have it?
I'm looking for it here. I've got.
Okay. So, Scott, I will gladly do that. I just want to understand from Andy the question that I asked regarding whether I make a motion or does a motion have to come from the table to remove these?
Well, I just want to make sure I'm on the same page with this. So we've looked through the entire 5,000 and
Yep.
we've kind of done this already. We've looked at the ones that we wanted to keep. We've looked at the ones that we thought, well, let's get it off for a first reading. So there's a lot of optional ones we've taken out already. That's kind of what that whole process was. So it sounds like, Bill, you kind of want to go back from the beginning now and look at policies that are, so basically we're going to go through the 5,000s again.
Well, it's not my intention, although I don't know if this discussion should be a part of once the motion is made, or we can have this conversation, certainly. It's not my intention, but I hope you will recall that all along I've said, there's no reason to enact policies that are
Okay.
optional, right?
Okay. So there's really no motion you have to make. So so maybe taking a step backwards, why don't we take a giant step backwards, more for John's understanding, since John is new to the committee. It's probably a little confusing to him right now. So if you don't mind, Bill, can I just do a quick
No, please, by all means.
Mrs. LeBlanc is also new because we just enacted alternates in the last month or two.
Right. So John and Tina, what you're looking at, and John, I know you have a hard copy. I heard you came in today, and thanks for getting that. You're looking, you have possibly the 5,000 series.
I have, 5,000, 6,000 series.
Right. So you have the 5,000 and 6,000 series. There are several series that the Board of Ed uses to dictate their policy of the district, and each policy is going to have a different focus. For example, the 5,000s in general is all about student conduct, how the district works with students. The 6,000 series takes a different bent. The 6,000 series is about instruction, how the district carries out their instruction, what goes into the instruction of the curriculum, et cetera, et cetera. The policy committees, because it's been about 4 years now, have started all the way back at the 9,000 series. We started there a long time ago because we were near an election, and the 9,000 series talked a lot about bylaws of the board and what the board could do. And there were some things that had to be cleaned up within those 4 years. In that time, we have covered a bunch of series, and we've now are almost done with the 5,000s, and we're about to start the 6,000s, which will be the last series that we need to do as a group. And how we have these is a group called CABE, which you may have heard of before. And CABE is an organizing body of school board members, and they provide a service for boards of ed where they give us the most up-to-date policies. And so I certainly am not creating these. Lawyers are doing this through CABE, and professionals who provide these for us, and they send them to us one series at a time. Once we have those, it's now your job as a committee to start looking through them. And you, on the behalf of the whole board, are starting to determine what policies look appropriate for Enfield and which ones maybe aren't appropriate for Enfield. Or if there is a policy you like, can it be changed a little bit so it caters to Enfield? And all of that has happened. We have excluded policies before. We've kept policies as is, and we've also kept policies, but changed it a bit to tailor make it just for the students and the staff and the community of Enfield. So we've done a little bit of everything.
Okay.
What CABE will provide is they will provide policies that we absolutely must have. There's really nothing we can do about it. What we see is what we get. It's based off of either state statutes or federal governance where we don't have a choice.
So these are required. These are just strictly required policies.
It's required.
Okay.
There's other policies CABE will give us that they highly recommend, either because they really feel like it's going to keep us out of legal issues, or it's really good practice, or it's policies that they know are coming down the pike and they're getting ahead of it. There's a third range of policies that are kind of, for a lack of a better words, consider. These are policies you can consider. They might be just a statement. They might be a philosophical phrase that will summarize our beliefs. And sometimes they're taking a state law, even though we're not mandated to have it, but they're going to they're going to kind of put some wording in it to try to help the district out to give us some guidance. So as your committee, as this committee, really the only thing you're required to do is look at the ones we absolutely have to have by law, because that can put the district in legal jeopardy. And that gets presented to the board as whole. So your group is going to look at a policy series, and these are long. The 5,000s and 6,000s are very long. We're going to look through them, and then when you're ready, that entire series will go to the Board of Ed as a whole, and then they'll have a chance to look it over themselves. At a board meeting, they can have a discussion if it's warranted, and then it's called a first reading. A first reading is done. Then there's 2 weeks go by for everyone in the community to look at it again. The board has a chance to get community feedback, and then at the second meeting, there'll be a vote for a second reading. And if the second reading passes, that policy now becomes Enfield Public Schools policy. Well, and I know I'm talking a lot, but this will be it. The reason why we're going through CABE, number one, they're very good at what they do. They're very current, and they have a real connection to our state legislators about what things are coming down the pike, and they have a good legal team. Also, when we're finished, and it's been a long time, but once we're finished, CABE is going to put all of our policies into a database, for a better word, but it's probably not the right word. I'm not too technological savvy on that, but they're going to put it on an ability for us on our website, where if someone wanted to, for example, look up dress code, they would just have to go onto our website, put in dress code, and all the words that have the word dress code and all of our policies would come up for the public to be able to click on. It's much more user friendly for people. Right now, it's pretty tough to find policies you want to find unless you look at them all the time. So by the time we're done with this, we're really going to have a much better system for the public to be able, and for you guys, and for our administrators to look up different policies. Once we finish the 6,000s, after that, we're not going through an entire policy grouping. At that point, we'll just be keeping current with the most recent legislation that comes out and make appropriate adjustments to our policies. So we're kind of doing the bulk of the work now, and the work will actually change a little bit once we're through all of the series. So that's it in a nutshell. Sorry to take up so much time, Bill, but
No, please. I think that was very helpful.
So
yeah,
Andy, I
that
thought it
was
was very
extremely helpful.
Okay,
Appreciate you doing it, and you included some information that I wasn't aware of, which is what you referred to as that database. I didn't know that was going to be happening.
Yeah.
So that's
Much
good information for me as well.
So to get back to your question, Bill, you don't need to make a motion in these committees about looking at or re-looking at things. That's what you guys do. That's the job of you guys, is to look at things, to analyze, to have conversations. Arguments come out of this, but that's what it's supposed to be. Where, Bill, you may want to consider making motions is if there's a vote, whether you want to include or not include something. I would say that would be the place you would want to do a motion, but you do not need to make a motion to say, let's go back and look at something. As the chair, you could say, I would like to take a look at these following policies again.
Okay, well, it is my intention not to have to review every single policy, especially these good practice ones that, again, I think fall into that third category of recommended, but you don't have to. So if anything at all, I guess maybe it's, we can certainly talk about it, but my position would be that we just take that whole grouping and we remove it from the 5,000 that we would consider, and we would move forward to the board as a whole. And Mr. Ryder, if you want me to tell you which ones they are, I'd be happy to do that at this point.
Yep, because I don't know if you've actually compared the lists of what are good practice and what we actually forwarded to the board to vote on. Because I'm not finished with this entire list, but I was doing this while Andy was explaining what the policy committee does, because I've been on it for several years. So I was listening to Andy while also cross-referencing this, and they're not all in there. Very few are. So yeah, let's
Okay.
discuss.
Well, so I'm gonna go through the list, and if you like, at the end, you can tell me which ones of this list are the ones that are actually in contention, right?
But you
So-
should know that because you want to wipe them all out. So you should have
Yes,
done that research. So which,
Well-
you know,
Scott, we can get argumentative about it. I am not in favor of any of these. So whether 5 of them made it or 10 or all of them made it, my opinion is still the same. None of them should be on there.
so you don't want a
So-
policy against off-school grounds misconduct or concussion safety and protocols.
I don't want one to deal with discipline and students with disabilities. I don't want one with transgender and non-conforming youth. I don't want
Yeah,
one that
I knew that
deals
one
with-
was on there. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't want to deal with video cameras and video surveillance. No.
that's not in there. So you're good there.
Okay, so again, that entire grouping is the one that I have an issue with. If
Okay, but
you- if you
we
did-
adopted.
If you did do the research and you say, hey, Bill, out of those 20, there's only 3 that made it, we can talk about those 3 specifically. But again, I'm against or not in favor of having any of these be a part of that package.
Okay.
So Bill, if I understand correctly, what you're saying is what you'd like to forward are the ones that are required.
Yes,
So the ones that are required are the ones that you're in favor of forwarding, and the ones that are not required, okay, the ones that are optional, you're saying, look, I don't want that to be part of the package that we're forwarding. But,
correct.
okay, I mean,
Mr. Ungary, if I may, Mr. Ungary, I just wanted to say something quick. So we've already had these discussions with the assistant superintendent and had determined that even if 3 or 4 aren't required, and I'm not done with my list, that they made sense, that there was a gap in what we currently had as policy, and whereas this one might have cleared something up, et cetera. So we don't pick and choose. I am 100% against just saying these 20 are good practice policies and we need to throw them out because some of them aren't in our books. And from Mr. Longi's viewpoint, per previous discussions, because we've been on this series since the day after the last election, we've done nothing but this for 11 months. And some of them made sense because there was a hole about that specific topic. You know, somewhere in our books, we didn't cover this or that, which is why CABE recommended specifically that we discuss 5143.xyz. So we can't blanket statement, in my opinion, these are just good practice, we're going to throw them out.
If I may, Mr. Ryder, since we're being formal, we do pick and choose. You stated that we don't pick and choose. Yeah, we do pick and choose. And it was the opinion of this committee to move some of them forward in the past. I've been expressing my, what's the correct expression? My stance, which was not to move forward with these. It's not a secret. And now that we have the opportunity, because they were not passed at the first reading, I think it behooves us to then consider what I'm proposing or what I'm stating, because in fact, that is the reason why they're back. And it should not be, they're back, but we reviewed them previously, so we're just gonna put the same thing forward again to the board. And, if we keep doing the same thing, we may get the same result, right?
All right, so make that your motion to just exclude these without review.
Okay. And that is my motion. I make a motion that we eliminate the optional good practice policies from the packet to be forwarded to the board. And I will read them if we want to, so that there's a complete record, but I think that, Mr. Longy, you have the list there as well.
I'll have to, I don't. Kathy has it. I didn't know we were
Okay.
going to go back and redo that, to be honest with you. I can either jump off and run across the hall and get it, or I can do it tomorrow, but I want to make sure I don't miss anything, that's for sure.
Okay.
So how many roughly are we looking at? Can you give me a rough number?
Yeah, there's roughly about 25 policies here,
Oh, wow. Okay.
several of which we had decided to ignore to begin with.
Okay, so not all 25 are coming out. So quite a few of them came out already.
Yes.
All right, these are posted publicly on the Enfield Board of Ed website. So
Could you just give me numbers real
Yeah.
quick?
yeah, read us the numbers of the ones that you want to kick out.
Yeah, I'll give you the title and the number, okay?
Okay.
So it's suspension and expulsion, number 5114.
That's not in,
Suspension.
that one was not forwarded to the board, so it's not, the
I'm-
public doesn't see that, so we don't need those.
I'm giving Mr. Longley the list. If you have the numbers that are.
Oh, he
published-
has the whole list.
No, he actually doesn't have that list in front of him.
Yeah, Scott, I don't have it in front of me. I didn't know we were going to be going through that. Like Kathy has it because she's the one who cleans it up. I don't have that list right now.
Sorry, Andy.
Okay, so the second one is suspension of students with disabilities. It's policy 51143. Next one, video cameras / video surveillance. Policy numbers 5131.11 and 5131.111. Terroristic acts and threats, 5131.8. Off-school grounds misconduct, 5131. Sorry, terroristic acts and threats is 5131.21. Off-school grounds misconduct, 51318. Use of electronic devices, 5131.81. Gang activity association, 5131.9. Cyberbullying, 5131.913. Dress and grooming, 5132. Communicable diseases, 5141.22. Student with HIV, ARC, or AIDS, 5141.24. Accommodating students with with special dietary needs, 5141.25. Use of automatic external defibrillators, 5141.27. Crisis response, 5141.6. Concussions, 5141.7. Student safety, 5142. Discipline and students with disabilities, 5144.3. Questioning and apprehension, 5145.11. Student search and seizure, 5145.12. Freedom of speech expression, 5145.2. Non-discrimination and affirmative action, in parentheses 10-15C and 46A to 60. And that is policy number 5145.4. Exploitation, sexual harassment, 5145.5. And lastly, transgender and non-conforming youth, 5145.53.
Okay, thank you for, sorry, I know that was long. Thank you, Bill, for reading those.
No, that's not a problem at all. So my motion is that we eliminate these from the packet that we're submitting to the board.
Yeah, so the motion I have recorded, Bill, tell me if this motion to eliminate optional good policies to be brought to the board for a first reading.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, and so discussion, I guess, at this point in time.
No. So do you know how many of those you just read were actually sent to the board, Mr. Salazar?
I know of two in particular. I know transgender and non-conforming youth, and I
Yep.
know the freedom of speech and expression. And also, I believe the concussions were.
Yeah, there were 7 that I counted.
Okay.
Off school grounds misconduct, 5131.8. Concussions, 5141.7.
Mhm.
Student safety, 5142. Freedom of speech and expression, 5145.2. Non-discrimination and affirmative action, 5145.4. sexual harassment, 5145.5, and an anti-discrimination policy against transgender non-conforming youth, 5145.53. So those 7 at one point had the support of the subcommittee and went to the Board of Ed, and I can't point out, a sentence or two that backs every single one of those because I don't have, a transcript of every single meeting we've had, but for some reason they were all important enough to go to the board. They were recommended by CABE as either to be considered, recommended. So I mean, I'd have to ask Mr. Longi, like, if we don't have a concussion policy in the books, 5147.7, are we covered on what to do with concussions by a blanket statement of these aren't going to go through? Same with student safety or off-school grounds misconduct or sexual harassment.
Before Mr. Long,
Some of those things are covered under the umbrella of other things and some aren't.
and you asked, you made a statement saying that they had the full support of the committee previously, and they did not have my support. This is a position that I've held consistently, and actually, not only did I voice my position that I wasn't in favor of them, I asked at that point in time, what are the steps that I can take to continue to voice my position of not being in support of these, which is what has brought us back to this process, right?
Yep.
So
I didn't say full support. I said they had the support of the subcommittee to send them to the Board of Ed, but okay.
and then you asked the question to Mr. Longi. I don't know if he wants to take the time to.
Well, I suppose what we would need to do is if our attorney would just have to rely solely on Connecticut statutes.
Isn't that what we're required to do in any case?
Yeah, but just from being involved with several legal challenges over my time here, the first thing the attorney will ask for is, what does your policy say about that? I think that's the first thing they'll ask for, to see as a district, what stance did we take on certain subjects. Concussion is a great example. Yes, there is acts concerning youth athletes, acts concerning concussions. But that policy is going to be a statement by the Board of Ed of our thoughts backing up that state statute. Do you have to have it? No, because they would have told us we did. But I think what Kay would tell you is that is going to reinforce yourself against liability.
Well, I think it also, in some cases, since we're talking about liability, it opens us up to liability. I mean, a great example of opening us up to liability is the one regarding transgender and non-conforming youth. As you know, that is being successfully challenged in the court by Connecticut students. And there's also the situation that I just read in the paper this week, where the school district in New Haven is being threatened with withholding federal funds if they continue to have this policy in their policy book, so to speak. So
What does that mean? What does it mean it's being successfully challenged? There hasn't been a ruling. So the policy as written applies with, or it's already in sync with Connecticut state law. So it's already a Connecticut state law. The
Correct.
federal law is a little broader in stroke, but Connecticut, as well as 18 other states, there's 19 states that interpret this law as it has. So it hasn't been successfully anything. It's in court, but that's the whole reason we have policies. Is when legalese changes, that's when we get a note from Andy saying, hey guys, a few things changed legalese, and even in the 5,000 series, we have to go back to the 2s because a couple things changed. And then we just, we add the new legal references, et cetera, and we bless them and put them in the books. So that's all you do there.
But what I meant by successfully challenged, actually, a judge did provide a ruling, but that ruling has been stayed, right? I don't know that stayed is the correct legal term, but it's been withheld because it's being appealed. So that's what I
So
meant.
if it changes, it changes.
I'm not sure what you mean by if it changes, it changes.
Well, right now it's law. And if the law changes, they'll tell us to change our policy.
I'm not saying to contest the state law, not at all. The law is a state law, right? I'm not asking us to contest state law. That's already in the books, which is another reason why we don't need the policy. Because whatever we enforce, or whatever, sorry, not what we enforce, whatever we record as our district policy is going to be superseded by state law. We cannot go against state law. So in this case, it doesn't provide any additional value. In this case in particular, I don't know that there is state law mandating all of the other 6 that are in contention here. But again, my position is there's enough policies. I mean, look at the size of the 5,000s, right? I mean, there's enough policies that we have in place. Do we really need to continue to bind ourselves and our administrators further by enacting additional policies where we're not required to?
I see them as clarifying. I see them as clarifying matters and making it easier for the admins to point to something to say, no, here's the policy. We're not handcuffing them.
I think it's an argument that goes both ways. It was my statement on the previous statements that I made. It goes both ways.
All right, I don't know where we are. I'm against just a blanket no.
Yeah, it's that you guys are in. You guys are.
We're still in discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question to Mr. Longy, please?
By all means, please.
Mr. Longy, the CABE optional policies, the ones that we're talking about here, basically not moving forward. Enfield, and this is more of a procedural question. We could establish our own policy independent of the wording of CABE, correct? In the future, if we see a need for, say, a concussion policy, then we could enact our own policy for concussion, correct?
Yes, you do not have to use CABE.
And we don't have to use the CABE policy. Or we could maybe reference a CABE policy if we were looking to make our own, but we're required to use that CABE policy. I mean, we can enact our own policy, correct?
That's correct.
Independent of CABE.
Correct.
Okay, I wanted to understand that. Thank you.
But if we create our own policy, that would go against Mr. Salazar's stance of we don't need any policy that CABE doesn't mandate. So why would we make one up? Now we're going to make one up?
No, I'm not saying that we will, but I'm just saying that
we have. No, we have. You took the seat of somebody who did make one up from scratch, and that one got through.
Okay. So sorry, John. What were you going to say?
No, I had a procedural question there of Andy, and he answered it for me. So, I'm of the mind of not tying people's hands with mandates and regulations and things more than what's required. And so that's really my stance on that. So if it's required, then we really have no choice in the matter. We have to. But if we don't have to, then let's focus on what we do have to. In my humble opinion.
Any further discussion? Okay.
Roll call.
Yes, sensing not, I guess we'll go call the vote.
Mr. Ryder?
No, there's some of these things in here that we need, so no.
Mr. Ungeyer?
Yes, to Mr. Salazar's
Yeah, we're voting on the motion.
I'm voting on the motion, yes.
Mr. Salazar?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 2-1.
So with that in mind, I don't see any additional 5,000 policy questions. So I think we're prepared to move it forward to the board.
Okay,
All right.
very good. Okay, if the committee would like, we can start the 6,000s, or don't know what I know we started very late, so I don't want to assume anything, but if people would like, we can start on the 6,000s, but that's up to you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, according to me, it's 6:34, and I was expecting the meeting to at least go until 7 o'clock.
Very good.
I feel that we can stay until 7 unless there is a motion to adjourn at this point in time that we can entertain. But I was hoping that we would at least go till 7.
Very good. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, again, I'll just introduce it and then it's all up to you guys. We're now on the 6,000 series, and as I mentioned, the bent of this series is about instruction. It's another very lengthy series. You'll see as we look through, they moved around quite a few policies that we may have had in different places. The way, hopefully we're looking at the same cover page, but you can see a chart. The way they have it is the bolded line, and it might be hard to tell with your copies. Hopefully you can see it okay. The bolded line indicates policies which boards of education must have due to federal or state law. So you'll see, this could be a very short series. There's actually, most of the policies are not mandatory. So you guys can decide how you want to handle this one.
We probably shouldn't even read them, just blanket them all through.
Well, that's certainly our prerogative, but there are some required ones. So my recommendation would be that we review the required ones and go from there.
Okay, let's see where that takes us.
Okay.
And then if we wanted to, for the sake of time, depending on where we are, I could always go through the 6,000s for the next meeting and tell you ones, even though they're not required by law. Instruction's a little different because it's going to talk about things that are tailor-made just to Enfield, grade point average and weighted systems for grading, things that the schools really need for college acceptance, to know how to calculate GPAs. Yes, the school could do that, but the school is basing that off of the board policy. We expect that our board endorses and accepts how we weight our classes, especially at the high school level. Whether there's a valedictorian, whether there's a salutatorian, all those things we're going to find in this policy. So Bill, it might be a good idea if we wanted to start with the ones that we must have. Make sense? And
Yeah,
then we can see
definitely.
what time it is. And then if you wanted to, that's up to you guys. I'm not saying we have to do this. This is your committee. I can always go through the rest of it and say for the next time, listen, this is one, I know it's not mandatory, but it's going to be hard to run the school without this one.
Yeah, they won't get passed though, so we shouldn't put too much time into those. Hopefully, we have a change of heart here.
Okay, so the first one that we have to have is 6115, and that's ceremonies and observances. We all want to jump over to that policy, 6115.
Yeah, I don't have the hard copy, so I'm getting it on.
Yeah, no problem.
So give me a second. School ceremonies and observances. Okay.
Okay, and John, one thing I forgot to mention, you can see, if you look in the upper right-hand corner, you can see the letter P and then the number P6115 up in the upper right-hand corner of that policy.
I don't see that.
Yeah, upper right-hand corner.
Upper
Okay.
right corner, I see R as in,
Oh, go,
Oh,
go.
you
why
went
I-
too far. You went too far, John. It's one page before that.
So go back one. That's why this is a perfect example to kind of show you. This is,
oh,
gets a little
yeah,
confusing. Okay. So CABE not only will write policies, which really you guys have jurisdiction over, they also include regulations, and that's more from my end of things. A regulation is not something you vote on. A regulation is for the administrators. So if you approve, for example, well, you have to approve this one. I guess you could change a little wording around if you wanted to, but the R number regulation is going to give an administrator more detail about it. It's going to go into what does this mean? What could happen if, for example, like if a student didn't stand and things like that. Legally, they're going to tell an administrator how you would handle those things. A lot of forms will be in the regulations, attendance forms, suspension forms, things that the general public really wouldn't need to see. But it's for the administrator. So I just wanted to summarize that. So policy 6115 is very short. Okay, we good with that one?
Yeah, just a quick question on that one, and I guess it's, does it matter? Does it need to include when, at what time of the day, or does it matter? Is that relevant or not at all?
I don't think it's relevant, but it's always in the morning, but doesn't have to be. That's just usually how
Okay,
this-
but it shouldn't, it doesn't have to be mandated. That's all understood and
No.
accepted by
No.
everyone. Okay.
No,
You can't put a time in there when the high school starts at 7 and the elementary start at 8 and middle school start, so.
Yeah, and I didn't mean a specific hour. I meant, at the particular time when the first class takes place, whatever the case, I'm wording to that effect. But if it's not needed, then I'm perfectly fine with what's here.
okay. And obviously, if you wanted to look at the regulations, you can certainly do that, but you can just see how it's going to just give a little more information for the administrators. Okay. The next one that's mandatory is policy 6121, and that's on non-discrimination. Again, 6121.
No comments on that.
Okay, everyone good on this one?
I am, thank you.
Okay.
I'm just finishing up here.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah, yes, I'm fine with it.
Okay, great. Okay, next one is policy 6141.312, migrant students. 6141.312. You can see that this one comes with forms as well, so there's a little bit more to look at on this one.
Do we,
Sorry, please go ahead.
I was just going to ask, do we have migrant students in our school system?
I'm not sure about this year, John. I don't have that information yet. We
Okay.
have in the past.
Yeah, at least as they are defined here, right?
Correct. Yeah, the state defines it pretty clearly.
Yeah, they do. I saw that. It's usually it's around primarily agricultural work.
Correct.
I know that we have in Enfield. These guys are riding in front of my house all the time with the tobacco.
Mhm.
So I don't know if there's children involved there who are part of our school system.
There have been in the past, John.
Thank you.
In- Yep.
I have a question on the section that pertains to migrant education program for parents, guardians involvement.
Okay.
And it says parent guardians of migrant students will be involved in and regularly consulted about the development, implementation, operation, and evaluation of the migrant program. I mean, that sounds like a pretty broad statement. How will you force them to be involved?
Are you on the first page, Bill? I just want to be able to get the wording down.
I am on, yes, I'm on the first page towards the bottom where it says migrant education program for parents, guardians involvement.
Yeah. First line.
Yeah, it says parent guardians of migrant students will be involved. To me, it sounds like almost equivalent to a must be involved. And it's how do you guarantee that?
I don't think we can guarantee that.
So is that worth noting, or are you comfortable with the language as it is now?
And regularly consulted, so you have to set up a program of consultation, or at least a schedule.
Right. I think what they're saying is there needs to be meetings, and if you have a meeting to talk about their child's education, the parents need to be involved in it. And you're right, Bill. There's really no guarantee. I mean, you do have flexibility to change words around. You do.
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily have any ideas. I'm just concerned by just a moment ago we were having the conversation about this is clear and the attorneys point to you. Do you have a policy if anybody legally makes a challenge? And when the policy reads, students, the parents of students will be involved and they will receive instruction regarding their role. I'm wondering what programs the district will put in place to comply with those requirements.
Right. So the program is focused on what educational program we can put into place, whether a child might need testing and maybe receive SEL services for language, or possibly special education if that's what's warranted, or a special school days built in. But the school would need to work with that family to figure out what would be best for that family.
So from your perspective, you're comfortable with what's stated?
I am comfortable with it, Bill. I am. I do understand what you're saying, but I think if we identify a migrant family, just speaking from the past, we've had very, very good success working with those families.
Okay. I don't have any other questions or issues with it.
Okay. Okay, so jumping forward a little bit, we're on internet acceptable use, and that's going to be policy 6141.323. 6141.323. So here we have some optional language we need to look at. So this happens as well sometimes, John, when CABE will give us a policy that we have to have, or even policies to consider. They'll give us 2 or 3 different choices. And this is a case right here. You'll see the first choice is a short section right before it says alternative option.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you go to the back page, there's even a third option. Legally, you can't go wrong. If CABE gave you those 3 options, you're okay. You don't have to be worried about it being a wrong choice. It's just a matter of a choice that as a group that you feel more comfortable with. It looks like the first one is a little bit more general, a little bit smaller, more of an overview. And the second one, it looks like it's getting into a little more detail, actually listing why the district offers the internet. And if you remember, we do have an acceptable use policy that the kids sign. We actually approved that recently.
Well, the form that they have to sign that's attached to this 6141.323 explains more of what we need the parents to understand upon signing.
Correct.
In that case, I think the first option is enough, in that by signing the form, they get some of this out of that.
Yeah, if my opinion matters, I like the first one.
Yeah, that's what.
It's a broader policy that I think
Yep.
provides, the coverage that you need, while at the same time not making it so specific, and it's putting requirements. Like the second option has a line there. Implementation of a system developed to filter out internet sites with content that's putting additional requirements. All internet access must be filtered. If at some point in time the filter fails, then we're liable.
Correct.
Yeah. So I agree. The first one seems good to me.
Okay.
Are we all in agreement, John?
Yes.
Of the 3 options, the first one looked okay.
Okay, perfect. Okay, super. Okay, so dropping down, student nutrition or student wellness, and that is down in the 6142.101. 6142.101.
And that's in CABE policy 6000 series PDF number 2. If you're looking at them electronically, we're out of packet 1.
Okay. Thanks for that. Excuse me.
Mr. Longy, I have a quick question.
I know what you're going to ask, and I don't know if I know the answer.
Okay, I'm good.
You want to know whether we
We
participate?
vote, how we vote no to yes, and does that affect this?
I believe that's it. Let me see if Mr. Drezik's available. Let me text him to see which one. If not, we can table this one and come back.
I would table this one.
Yeah, because because our option is gonna be based on that.
Scott, could you explain your concern, please? I just don't know. What is no for yes, and what does that mean?
Well, in summary, at the beginning of every school year, we vote to approve being USDA compliant in school buildings, which we are, but we vote it down because that also ties our hands at concession stands, at sporting events, or serving cupcakes at a PTO event, things of that nature.
Yes.
So we do all that is asked of us without formally opting it as a policy because it ties our hands outside of the cafeteria.
Okay.
And this policy seems to be going hand in hand with that. So this one we might adopt, but we may have to tailor this one to what Enfield Public Schools does in regard to what I'm referring to.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, I just sent the text to Mr. Drezik. I have a feeling we're gonna want option one, though. After look, I think it's interesting they even put that as the first option, which makes me think that's a normal thing.
Yeah.
But let's see what he says. I don't want to cross anything out till I know for sure.
So do you want to table it now and come back to it, or are we waiting for some kind of feedback?
I can see him typing. Those little dots are up.
Okay.
If you want to keep looking it over while we're waiting, it's a little bit long. There's also a regulation at the end that you don't have to look at too much there. And I'll take care of the option one, option two on the regulation.
Well, it sounds like this is probably a good time to stop as well, since we are now approaching the.
Okay, I got the answer. So why don't we just finish this one? So
Okay.
we're correct. We are not with that is what we vote down. So we would want option one for each of those. So I'll cross out the option twos.
Okay. Okay, so with that in mind, if I understood you correctly, Andy, you're going to take a close look at all of the policies that are being proposed here, and you're going to review and see if there's in fact anything that is you believe should be mandatory that isn't described as mandatory now. Is that correct?
Yeah, I just want to make sure, Bill, that we're not going to take anything out that's going to hinder. So I'm thinking specifically of the high school, being a former high school principal. These policies were really a go-to for me and our guidance department and our students, because as I think I'll pull out, you'll see that there's a lot about our grading system and things like that.
Yeah, you mentioned testing.
That I do think is important as a board that you support. I do think that is important.
Okay.
Gosh, I hope we do.
So with that in mind, I forget, do we have to have a motion to adjourn?
We do.
Okay. Does anybody want to put forth a motion, or do you guys want to keep going?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. I second that. All those in favor? You're not in favor, Scott?
You got the votes. You're good.
Okay.
I gotcha.
All right. Okay, well, thanks, everyone. Have a good night. And-
Okay,
you.
soon, everybody.
All
Thank
right.
you. Have a good night.
All right.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.